Hi, this is Catie Curtis with John Broughton on Retrospectives on 3SER KC Radio.
My mind is racing and my feet are moving slow. I look all around me, don't see anything I know.
Just to start off, were you from a musical family at all?
Yes, my family often sang together. We liked to travel and sing in harmony, and we were usually singing songs from the American, Broadway songbook, like of the 30s and 40s. So the big harmony-based melodic songs, and but nobody else in my family played an instrument, and nobody has ever pursued music professionally.
I believe your first instrument of choice was the drums.
That's right. I played the drums for a theater group until the show was closed, and then someone in the theater group had a yard sale, and they were trying to get rid of a guitar, and I was only 16 or 15, I guess 15, and I didn't have any money, and she said, "If you promise you will learn to play this guitar, you can have it." And that's how I got my first guitar.
Right. Do you still have a bash on the drums for your own enjoyment?
I do. I have a mini drum set called the cocktail set, which you play standing up. It looks like a really tall floor tom, which has a kick pedal underneath it.
Oh, yeah.
Kicks underneath, and then it has a little splash cymbal and hi-hat attached. So I sometimes will bring that to shows and play.
So when did songwriting become a primary focus for you?
I would say in college, and in my 20s, and I didn't get signed to a major label till I was about 30. So I had a lot to learn. I didn't really write very much in high school, and only a little in college. But into my 20s, I started getting more serious about it.
In terms of songwriters that inspired you to want to write, could you probably trace a uniform quality amongst those songwriters, something that appealed to you through them all?
Yeah, I would say all the songs that I was drawn to early on were songs that had the lyric was probably more important or as important as the music. I was very into Greg Brown, folk singer, and Ricky Lee Jones, and I'm trying to think of people who aren't too obscure.
Yeah.
The early Sean Colvin stuff I really liked a lot, and I really the first concert I ever went to that I thought, oh, this is what I definitely want to do, was Suzanne Vega. Mm-hmm. And what I liked is the fact that, it was the format of one person with just their guitar and some stories and some wonderful songs. And I really liked the intimacy and immediacy of that kind of music and that type of delivery. And I like that so much more than at the time, there was a lot of heavy metal, in the late 80s, and I really hated heavy metal, and I hated noisy music, and I just really liked the intensity of the solo performer with the nice lyric and interesting stories to tell. I thought that was, right away when I saw that in college, I thought that's what I want to do.
Describe the music scene in Boston when you started out there. How would you rate it as a learning experience?
When I was first starting out, there were just tons of other artists starting out that have now broken out and made a name for themselves. Like Patty Griffin was here, and Martin Sexton, and Ellis Paul, and Vance Gilbert. I don't know if you're familiar with any of these folks, but so there was a huge scene of people playing the open mics. We were all playing, these round robins together at the folk, at Club Passim and at the various coffee houses. And it was very nurturing. I was in a songwriting group, and I felt like it was a really thriving acoustic folk scene where a lot of people were getting known. And now it's interesting because I know there's still a lot of people who go to the open mics, and I know there's still a lot of people doing it. But in the last few years, we haven't really had too many people break out of the Boston scene and become known elsewhere. And I don't really know how the acoustic scene is doing here in Boston. I think I'm a little less involved on the grassroots level of the folk scene here because now I'm touring all the time, and I also have a child at home, and I'm not always out there.
Now, your first record deal came through EMI. How did that one come about?
Well, a couple things happened. First of all, they saw me at the Bottom Line in New York. This A&R guy from EMI Guardian came to see me at the Bottom Line, and it was funny because the only reason that I was playing that show was because I had just been to an industry conference called South by Southwest in Texas, and I had lost my glasses at the conference, and I needed a few $100s to replace them, and at the last minute they needed an opening act at the Bottom Line in New York, and I said, great, I need the money to buy my glasses. I will drive down to New York and play this gig. So that's the whole reason I was there, and it turned out that it was a real, probably the most important night of my career because it was when I was first seen by these folks at Guardian, and they took me from, really struggling along, playing these $50, $100 gigs here and there to, being signed to a major label, getting some substantial advance money, and publicizing my new release and my tours to the point where I was, finally able to play to 300 or 400 people, and it really became a different level for me in terms of being able to support myself. Somewhere
else where you got some good exposure was the Lilith Fair tour. We hear a lot about that down here. How was that experience for you?
Well, it was really great. The tour itself probably extended like 30 or 40 dates throughout the summer. I'm not really sure. It might have been even 60 dates. And I played 5, so it wasn't life-changing for me to play these 5 shows. But certainly it was exciting because the women, especially Sarah McLachlan, who organized the tour, invited every single artist from all the stages to come out and be part of the finale. So, it was really the only time I've ever been out on stage for 5 nights in a row in front of 20,000 people each night. I mean, that was a really exciting experience, and she gave a lot of us verses to sing on the finale solo, and to hear your voice shooting out there to 20,000 people, it's a fun experience if you haven't had it, which I hadn't. And just to be on stage with so many of my artistic heroes like Bonnie Raitt, and I really enjoyed Natalie Merchant. She was on that, and Victoria Williams, and so I really dug it, and I would have loved to do a lot more. I was very sad that Sarah McLachlan decided to keep it a limited thing where I think she did it for 3 years, and then that was it.
Yeah. I think reading up on you, you've done a spot of acting in your time as well. Is that right?
Only a very little bit. There's this crazy, wonderfully talented comic writer and musical writer in Boston called her name's Faith Soloway, and she's done a couple of plays that I've starred in, and it's just been a hoot. It's sort of musical comedy. She did one called Miss Folk America, which was a mock pageant, and then she did one called Jesus Has Two Mommies, which was like a rewriting of the Bible story, and it was just actually a very beautiful and funny and touching way of looking at the virgin birth and all that.
Yeah.
it was really, she's really clever and very sensitive and interesting and funny, and if anyone can get their hands on, I think actually you can go to Faith Soloway, and it's SOLOWAY.com, and you can get information about buying her DVDs of these plays.
Oh, okay.
They're very funny. Yeah.
Is that something you'd like to pursue further, the acting side of things?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think I have a whole lot of talent for acting. Frankly, what I enjoy more than anything creatively is this process of sitting in my workspace and coming up with songs that I want to sing and then going out there and singing them. And although I like acting, I don't really. I don't feel like I have a lot of interest or talent at interpreting other people's work, and I do it a little bit with cover songs when I'm really touched by a cover song, by a song. But the thing that motivates me more than anything is the process of really trying to get a song right. To find the right words and the right melody to express something. And you got to sort of get yourself in this universal groove to find the way to express something that will resonate with other people. And I just think it's such an exciting process, an exciting endeavor, and that's really what I like to do the most. Wow, that's hard for me to answer because I would have to tear away my illusion of humility. I would have to admit that I think something's really good. Let's see. Well, I could tell you that what I hope for as a writer is to reveal humanity and. I guess you and I both, I'm sure you love music, we listen to music, you hear something and you feel like, oh my God, that is exactly what I was thinking or exactly how I was feeling. How did this person write this and speak to me like this? Mm-hmm. I mean, I just recently heard, the first cut on the new Patty Griffin record. The record's called Impossible Dream, but it's, I think, Love Throws a Line, I think is the name of the track. And, it's about these, fears about what's going to happen to the world, and then it goes like, love throws a line to you and me. And it's just so on for what's happening today, even though the song is pretty metaphorical and it's, it doesn't really directly speak to current events, but so you hear a song like that and you just feel like this artist has managed to connect with something going on with you individually and with the greater, global humanity. And that, I guess every song, whether it's a love song or more socially concerned song, you just want to be able to tap into that. And so occasionally I feel like I've been able to do that, and I guess that's what I hope for.
Sure. You seem to like to work with different producers on your records. Is that purely the desire to get a fresh approach each time, or are you yet to find a producer that you're totally comfortable with?
Well, I would say that it's because I want a fresh approach each time, and everyone I've worked with has been wonderful, and I would readily work with them again. But I think that because my writing is pretty consistent and my singing is the same, I want something to be different in the record. Mm-hmm. So record to record, I do try to mix up a little bit anyway, that the producer, the band, and, I wonder though, if I'm already starting, of course, to think about the next record, and I'm thinking that for once, it might be nice to work with a producer who's another songwriter, and to work with somebody that's really going to focus on, making sure the songs are arranged the right way. And so far, the last two records, I've worked with Trina Shoemaker, who's an engineer. So I've been really focused on the sounds that I want. Mm-hmm. And I think on the next record, I might be more focused on the songs, making sure they're written, they're finished, they're as strong as they can be, and that they're arranged, in a way that's very appropriate for them. Because I think for the last record anyway, I knew what band I wanted to work with, and we came up with all the arrangements, and then my producer came in and recorded us. But I didn't collaborate with anybody on the arrangements. We just sort of made them up on the fly. And I think it would be interesting on my next record to be a little more conscious of, what the arrangements will be.
Do you take a lot of notice of music reviewers and critics of your albums, reviewers of your albums? For instance, could have, heaven forbid, if you ever got a bad review, would that hurt you?
Yeah, I don't tend to read them because I am sensitive about what the bad things people say. Not even bad, but just critical, slightly critical.
Yeah.
And I don't find it helpful because the few times that I have read reviews that included some negative stuff, I've wondered if they really listened hard to the record, because I know that I sometimes can be really critical of a record, and then I'll listen to it more, and then I'll go, oh, okay, I get it now. This is what they're doing, And so I don't know whether to even trust reviews a lot of times, because you really don't know how closely they listen to the record or what their personal taste is.
Or how many times they've listened, or if they've even listened all the way through.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier you've adopted a little girl.
Yeah.
How's parenthood agreeing with you, and have you managed a good balance with career and family?
It's great. I had a funny morning because I took her to preschool this morning before this phone call, which was at 8:15, and so we were up early, and when I came back to the house right before you called, it was a disaster because I had been trying so hard to get her out the door and to get back in time for this phone call. There was complete chaos. Like there was a diaper on the floor. I had made some mac and cheese, and it was like all over the stove. Everything was, all the toys were all spread out. It's like complete and utter chaos. And I guess in general, I would say that being a parent has increased the amount of chaos in my life, but that also I enjoy it so much, and I feel much less anxious in my life, because there's this piece of my life now that just feels so rich and full of meaning that it takes the pressure off everything else that I used to think had to be so perfect. Like I do when I'm driving home from a show, and if the show wasn't that great, I still have this and in the morning I'll get up with my daughter, and she doesn't really care how my show went. It's not all about that anymore, and so that's helpful. And we're actually adopting another child who will hopefully get home to us in the next couple of months, and so it's going to be even more chaos around here. But I do have a partner that takes care of the kids quite a bit, and so I get the time to still do my work, and I feel right now I feel like it's a great balance. I don't know about when we get two kids, but right now it's great.
Are you with Vanguard Records now? That must be a great feeling to be with a label with such a great history in presenting fine songwriting.
Yeah, very much so. It's a great label, and you can't say that about too many labels. I mean, hardly anyone likes their label, I think they're wonderful, and they've done a pretty good job with this record. I mean, it's a hard time for record sales in general. I guess, across the board, record sales are down. People are downloading stuff and burning copies for each other and whatnot, but Vanguard's been great to work with.
Where are your best markets outside of the States?
Outside of the States?
Yeah.
The only places I've really returned and played, really just, there's a few towns in Ireland, and I've played London and Sheffield a few times and done well there. But the other places in Europe that I've gone, I've only gone once, and I probably won't get a chance to go back because I just don't have enough going on there so far. And I've never played in Australia, which is so sad, but I would love to.
Oh, we'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
Now, this last album was recorded in a week's worth of sessions, I believe.
The basic tracks were recorded in a week, and then we continued to mess with it for a couple of months. But the band came in, and we just really tried to just hammer it out in a week, and that was very intense and really good. And it happened to be the same week that our first child came home. We adopted her from Latin America, and it was the same week that she came to live with us, and it was like, wow, this is a very intense week. It's, we waited for like 6 months for her to come home, and we didn't find out till the week before my recording that it was going to happen in the same week as my recording. And it was like, why do these things have to happen at exactly the same time? But it added to the intensity of the record. I think you can hear the emotion in everybody's playing, because everyone involved in it is a close friend and knew what was going on in my life. And I think we played that record with a lot of feeling.
Is that usual for you, though? Are you one that likes to not get too bogged down in the studio?
I spent a really long time on my self-titled record, like 3 months recording that one, and like 3 months straight. I moved to LA and worked with Roy Bittan, who was in Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band.
Yep.
We worked. That was the EMI record that I made, The Guardian, and you know how major labels are. They don't mind spending a lot of money, and it just went on and on and on. And I really enjoyed it, but I felt like that was too long. Then my next record, I cut it back to like 2 months. And then for My Shirt Looks Good on You, I think I did it in like 3 weeks. And then this one, I just felt like, you know what, maybe the record would sound fresher if we just did it. Like, just did, you know, because I always felt like my demos sounded, in some ways, more fresh than the albums. And so that was the idea with Dreaming in Romance Languages, is we would just go in there and just have these really fresh takes of things. And we did a lot more rehearsal and pre-production. You know, we did a standing gig, a residency gig at a local club for a month to get ready to play the songs on the record. So, yeah, I really enjoyed doing it quickly, but I think pendulum might be swinging back in the other direction, because now, you know, I've been talking about wanting to be a little more thoughtful about the arrangements, and I think the next record I would like to get some equipment to be able to record at home and to be able to spend maybe a little more time trying different ideas before we commit to ideas. Because with the last record, I think all the ideas worked really well, but basically we were committed to them before we went in the studio, and then we just did it. You know, we didn't go in the studio and try this and that and the other thing.
Now, I believe there is a film documentary on you soon to be released called Tangled Stories.
Yeah, there's a fellow who followed me around for about a year and a half, and it was around the time that I was trying to decide whether to adopt a kid. And actually, he filmed the moment that we came home from at the airport with her, and when you know, the day that we got her home, which was in the middle of our recording sessions. It's been a really cool thing for him to have documented this part of my life. And he also interviewed a lot of other singer-songwriters, including Mary Chapin Carpenter and Janice Ian and Deb Talon, and a lot of people from the Boston scene. You know, interviewed them to ask about the state of the music business. It's really a movie about the under-the-radar music business, you know, the grassroots folk thing. And the only thing that's holding up right now is a guy who filmed it. He just had a baby himself. He and his wife had a baby, and he now has a bunch of other commitments. So he's actually kind of slowing down on the release of the thing. So I don't know when it's actually going to be out.
And just to finish up, Catie, what's coming up for you in the new year?
Well, I'm just looking forward to continuing to write this record, the new record that, you know, it's just like I'm at the beginning stages of writing. And I have a bunch of shows already booked for the coming year, including I'm playing on a cruise in the fall of next year, like I did this year, which is, it's an Olivia cruise to the Mexican Caribbean. So that's something to look forward to. And, you know, we'll be adopting a new baby, so that's a big project for the coming year. That's a big project,
yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, thanks again, Catie, for your time. Been much appreciated speaking to you today.
Sure.
Thanks for all the wonderful music to date, and we're sure there's plenty more to come.
Thank you so much. It's
and
my pleasure.
Sorry for turning your house upside down on an early Tuesday morning for you.
Yeah, I know. Now I need to go clean up.
Then to have a nice long rest.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Catie. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.